So, sige. Anong pag-uusapan? Is there something that you wanted to discuss today? Today bago tayo pumunta sa some of the questions, we're gonna open the lines now. Kung may mga tanong ko kayo, open si attorney. Attorney, sige, go. Teka muna, ready na ako. Ready na ako sa papel ko. Tsaka ito,
ready na sa papel. Parang case study po natin.
Case study. Sige.
May case study tayo. May nasettle kami na case in terms of personal injury na nasa trabaho siya at nahulog siya dahil hindi maayos, walang health and safety, hindi enough yung health and safety measures, hindi enough yung risk management nung particular premises na yon. And insurers, and we will say insurers ang sumalo kasi as we all know dito sa UK, may mga insurance ang mga ang most of if not all of the businesses, public liability insurance. So it's one of the cases na recently settled. So fresh pa sa mga memory namin. So I thought I'll share with you yung ano ba yung makiklaim mo pag ikaw ay na-injure, not necessarily road traffic kasi parati natin sinasabi nasagasaan or nabunggu yung kotse. Minsan, this is what we call employer's liability. So, pag ang employer mo ay hindi enough ang risk assessment at hindi enough ang kanilang health and safety measures, we're talking about everywhere, care home industry, NHS, hospital, abogado, walang it's regardless sa industriya natin mga kababayan. So, it's the same it's the same duty ng empleyado natin that they provide you with a reasonably safe environment for work. In this particular case, medyo elderly na yung client ko. Part-time worker lang siya. So it didn't matter na part-time lang siya. She was looking at sana magtatrabaho pa ng 2 or 3 more years. But because of the injury, na-break yung arm niya. Because of that injury, ay hindi na siya nakabalik kasi it was bad enough na siguro marami tayong healthcare workers dito. We all know kung ano yung normal na mga side effect pag may certain injury sa wrist or arms, persistent pain, may pag malamig, lalo na pag malamig, pag umuulan, lalo na kapag may mga naiwan na mga metal dyan. So may mga chronic pain issues, may issues with handling heavier stuff. So una-una, one of the main losses obviously is yung tawag namin pain, suffering, and loss of amenity. Yung talagang injury mo, yung loss ng gamit mo ng, in this case, it was a broken wrist. And yung that particular period of time for you to recover fully, or kung hindi fully, kung kailan nag-plateau yung kanyang injury. So this one about 18 months then, close to 18 months to 2 years. Hindi siya fully recovered. She reached a stage na, eto na talaga, yan na siya, hindi siya 100%, but she's there. That's going to be the situation that she's going to have for a long time. May pain, she can't lift much, may konting restriction sa movement. And most importantly, hindi lang ako, o sino mga abogado yung nagsabi nun. There was an expert, isang orthopedic consultant, ang nilapitan namin and asked them, please can you look at our client and please can you give a prognosis kung ano yung epekto. First of all, ano yung prognosis ng injury niya, kailan siya gagaling, at kung hindi na siya fully gagaling, or may mga residual na symptoms, ano ba yon? And would it have an impact sa kanyang employability? So, isa sa impact sa kanya is, hindi na siya makabalik sa trabaho na yon. So, isa sa kinlaim namin is what we call a disadvantage sa market, sa labor market. Na, this is very different dun sa other claim na loss of earnings. So, dahil naturally, hindi siya makagalaw, she had surgery, talagang she had to stop working. So may direct impact na loss of earnings nung nagre-recover siya. So that's very straightforward, loss of earnings, habang re-recuperate siya, ilang months din siya na pabalik-balik sa hospital, and she decided na hindi na siya makakabalik kahit part-time So, may ganong element yung case namin, yung direct loss of earnings. But also, may element na sabi namin, pwede siyang bumalik, potentially pwede siyang bumalik, we accept that, but hindi na siya ganon ka desirable sa market. Not necessarily because of disability. Hindi siya pwede discriminate, obviously, further to Disability Act, but may certain na trabaho na hindi na niya gawin physically. So, that's the situation with her. Also, it would have an impact nung at the particular period in time, shortly nung nagkaroon siya ng injury, she was also going to hospitals. Hindi lang naman isang surgery yan. Normally, 1, 2, or 3 kapag may fracture ka, di ba? Healthcare workers would know this na minsan tatanggalin yung mga pins, minsan meron pang pangatlo o pang-apat na mga consultation to check kung nag-heal ba properly, nagsiset ba properly yung fracture. I think that's the particular term. So she incurred medical expenses as well. So we put there medical expenses as well as travel expenses. So may mga extra cost, extra special damages kami na kinlaim. That's what we call special damages. So, remember we started off, main claim, straight away, magkano ba yan, Dana, pag yung wrist mo. So, by the way, we don't just, hindi lang kami kumukuha ng figure from thin air, is what we call it, from our imagination. We have a set guidelines. We call it the Judicial Study Board. May book, may maliit na booklet. I call it my orange book. Available din siya, and sometimes nasa internet siya. But if you type Judicial Studies Board, meron ng guidelines. Nakalagay doon actually. Kung halimbawa in this case, an orthopedic injury sa wrist, and may severe, may minor, may very complex, and it would have a spectrum, meron siyang range ng awards. So, hindi siya completely na bibigyan kanya ng figure. So, meron kang area to argue na, ano ba ka sa higher spectrum? In this case, I said, client ko, nasa higher spectrum kasi may extra, according to sa expert, hindi lang dahil sa akin, 2 beses talaga siyang connect within a period of time, within 18 months. Connect siya shortly after the injury, and then a few months later, kasi sabi niya, hindi natin sure kung nag-set talaga. So, connecting siya a few months later, may supplementary na X-ray check at supplementary report to say, atong client na to is facing this complexity of injury at ito yung rehabilitation period niya. So, using that, nakita ko dun sa Judicial Studies Board na ito yung figure for this particular case. So that's one thing, kasi maraming mga kababayan natin, na-distracted ako sa work, I had a back injury, I had a fall, I had this, so they would ask me, so saan mo kinukuha yung figure mo? So that's where we get the Judicial Studies Board. In this particular case, we did ask for future loss of earnings, kasi sabi nga namin, we potentially cannot work anymore. So we would say, kahit ba nyo lang 1 or 2 years, kasi medyo elderly yung client ko, but we did ask for that. Normally, kung mas malaki yung period, I had a client 40 years old at that time of the injury, hindi lang loss of earnings, may loss of pension pa. So mas malaki talaga, malaki yung loss of earnings, malaki yung loss of pension, and malaki yung future expenses niya din. In recent days ko, not so much, kasi nearer to the retirement na siya. So, yung makikita mong pattern is kung ano yung impact ng injury mo yun dito sa particular. It's very subjective as well. Kailangan mong kilalanin yung kliyente mo. The time with personal injury, kala ng iba, ambulance case na lang, or talagang, bigay mo lang yung figure sa insurer at bibigyan ka na settle with more complicated personal injury, mga life-changing injury. You actually get to know your client kasi medyo minsan abutin ng 1 or 2 years or 3 years sometimes, hihintayin mo yung injury na mag-reach dun sa level na alam mo na talaga your client is not getting any better and is not getting any worse. Ito na talaga yung sitwasyon niya for a very long time. With that, you get to know them, ask how the injury has impacted their life, their family, their identity in time, their dreams, their ambition, their how this has impacted what they want to do in the future, how it has impacted people surrounding them, how it has impacted their finances. So, yung process na yun, for me as a personal injury lawyer, it's very, very interesting because at the end of it, talagang makikilala mo yung talento mo. Makikilala mo talaga kung sino sila before the injury, especially with life-changing injury. We're talking, one of my biggest cases was loss of an eye. So, and one as well was a traumatic brain injury. So, makikilala mo talaga sila kasi hanapin mo yung evidence before. So, makikilala mo sino sila noon, makikita mo yung pictures, makikita mo yung witness statement ng mga mag-anak nila, ng mga yung spouse, ng anak, ng mga nakapaligid, kaibigan, employer. And then, makikita mo yung position after the injury. And for me, that's a source of inspiration kung paano mo ma-close yung gap as much as possible via settlement. Na matulungan sila ma-rehabilitate, magkaroon ng adjustment, makahanap ng bagong identity sometimes, makahanap ng bagong dream, ng bagong ambition, ng bagong career. So we talked about retraining, not particularly in the recent case, but with previous cases, I had to go and look at kung ano yung pwede nilang gawin as an alternative career. Ano yung kailangan nilang retraining, ano yung package na kailangan nila to get there as close as possible. Kasi ito yung, nung una, ito yung buhay na kailangan, na trajectory ng buhay nila and na-change dahil sa injury and a job as civil lawyers in that particular case to make sure na may subjective na application ng law in this client, in this claimant, na we put them back as if hindi nangyari yung incident. It's not perfect. They'll probably feel na wag na lang sana, hindi na lang sana ako nasagasan, hindi na lang sana ako nabangga, hindi na lang sana ako na-aksidente sa trabaho. I'd rather choose my health. Yun yung isa sa interestingly yung parating sinasabi ng mga sinagito, I would have rather chosen na maging healthy ako, na maging maayos ako, because I really like yung life na inisip ko para sa sarili ko, inisip ko para sa pamilya ko compared to this life. But then, as well, parte nun is to help them move on dun sa sitwasyon they found themselves in. So for me, that's very, very important. Very important to get to know your client. It's very important to get to know sino sila before, kung ano yung gusto sana nila gawin, and then to put them back into a place of getting to that, a moving on stage, a healing stage, to get as close as possible kung sana ano nangyari, and get them to be healed, and get them to that place na madidiscover nila ulit who they can be given that injury, given that situation that they find themselves in. So, yun yung parang gift, that's the losses in a summary, taking that particular case that I dealt with, elderly women, had an accident at work, it was a fall, had a wrist injury, we had to go through there. It doesn't matter if she was working part-time, it doesn't matter where she was elderly. So most important thing there was, I think we had an really good expert report shortly after the injury, and then after a few months, with gapping evidence, we got further evidence, further x-ray, kahit pandemic we were, I think, in the middle na medyo pwedeng kumuha ng injury, and ng x-ray, we got her to get that x-ray, nagbigay ng extra evidence medical expert report, and the insurers were satisfied. It was a five-figure sum. It was a decent sum for her. So for me, that's one of the a really good outcome. We're very pleased for her, and also we're very pleased na nakilala din namin siya. Nakilala namin kung na gusto niya yung gardening, gusto niya yung ito yung mga hobbies niya before, na nagkaroon ng impact, hopefully with this, hopefully at some point, mahanap niya yung with some form of rehabilitation, makakabalik na siya dun sa hobby niya. Makakabalik na siya as close as possible kung ano yung gusto niyang gawin. So, that, as I've said, that's where the satisfaction comes from. With complex personal injuries, getting to know your client, getting to know kung ano yung sitwasyon nila, yung pamilya nila, kung yung effect ng injury nila, and then getting them to that best position.